So I hope that you're having a wonderful Fri-YAY, that your day is full of awesome. And this is my friend Brian, who is joining me for Fri-YAY today. So Brian, KM, welcome. Welcome to
Hello.
Fri-YAY. I hope that you have so much yay in your day.
I do. I'm in the snow. I'm getting snowed in Michigan right now.
Oh my goodness. Wow. How is it? Are you doing
It's
okay?
well, so I've been in Hawaii for the past 5 years, so I haven't had any snow. I think this is the most snow I've seen in like a decade, and I timed it beautifully because I'm wonderfully talented. I drove to this house, got a beer, got my groceries, and then checked in, and it started snowing, and it's not stopped in about 36 hours, and it's
So
still going. So
you're
it's
having the
been great.
true Michigan experience. Like,
Yes.
that's incredible. Well, I'm so glad that you were here. I'm hoping that as we kind of kick this off, will you give us like the short intro to Brian KM? Tell people like what you're about, what you love, and also a little bit about like what you're doing right now, because then we're going to jump into some other stuff that's more specifically about that.
Absolutely. My name's Brian Cam. I play French horn and make sounds with my computer. And I do solo shows and I do coachings for folks who are doing new music at the university level. And I teach French horn and I live in Australia.
Yay! So, so a little bit about what you're doing right now is that you are not in Australia, as we already mentioned, you're in Michigan at the moment. So why are you in Michigan at the moment?
So I'm on a live tour. I do this show called Brian Cam Live, which is a sort of duet act between me and my computer. His name is Stan. And I left my home in Australia in the middle of October. And I started in Melbourne, Australia, and then I went to Hawaii, and then I went to the Twin Cities, and then Iowa, and I've just been all around ever since then. So I'm gonna kind of take a break from that tour now, and Thanksgiving week then pick it up in December, do the holidays, and then back to Australia I go.
Yay! Well, the reason I wanted to have you on is I think I actually get this question quite a bit. It's like, how do I plan a tour? What is a tour? All of this kind of stuff. And so I thought this would be a great chance for us to chat about it. And you can kind of tell people about, I mean, what you went through to kind of like plan these tour stops, like how you've been putting this together. I'm gonna let you kind of take it from there because I'm sure you have, you know, a better sense of like where do I want to start talking about this? Like what's the beginning step for in your mind when you're thinking about tour?
So the way that I think about planning the tour is trying to help the folks who are hiring me totally understand at the lowest level of what it is they're trying to buy from me. So I think the more romantic idea, and I'd really like it if this were the case, is I go put out a video on YouTube of me playing French horn and making sounds with my computer, and someone writes to me and says, "Oh, I love what you're doing. Please let me organize your 6-week tour, and we'll go all around the world, and it'll be lovely."
Wouldn't that be
And
amazing?
someday, um,
Someday.
someday. So what I've done, or how I've found success, is getting very, very small. So I started by writing to folks I knew and said, I'm going on tour and I'm going to be in your neck of the woods somewhere between October and December of this year.
Mhm.
And they said, great. And some of them hired me and some of them wanted more specifics. And then we narrowed down. And at the level that I'm at now, it is someone gets an email from me that says, I'm Brian Cam, I play French horn and make sounds with my computer, and I do this show, and it has availability on December 8th
Yeah.
at like from this time to this time, and pricing and other offerings that I have. And we're able to get very, very specific so that we don't have to go back and forth 15 or 20 emails to understand what's actually being sold,
Mhm.
because there's just so I know I'm like this when I try to buy something. I'm so fickle. I don't like myself as a customer because I'll go buy t-shirts, and there's a lot of people who want to sell me t-shirts, but when I go to the pricing button and it's like they want to go through 8 pages of collecting data or trying to understand how I feel about the colors of the shirts, I'm just like, no, I'm going to go. And the first person to get my money gets my money.
Yes.
And I want to create the same experience for the folks who are buying the show from me. So it's really, really, really specific. I do the research on the venues. Hey, you brought in this artist who is playing viola and making sounds with their computer. I play French horn and make sounds with my computer, so we might have something in common. Or you've never brought in someone who makes sounds with their computer, but you do a bunch of modern music. Maybe you'd like to go in this direction. So that focused idea of what I'm trying to get at has been the most helpful when I'm planning the tour. And then the rest of it is filling in holes, trying to make sure I book the travel correctly and stay healthy and those things.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you pointed out both that the audience like alignment side can work from, hey, other people that do this very similar thing have performed here, but then also you're in a general area and you haven't had somebody that does exactly this, but I think it's pretty close. Like, would you consider doing this? I think that's such a great point for what you're saying. Was it a little I don't know, nerve-wracking, a little unfamiliar to like start doing research on venues and trying to find alignment for your show?
I don't think so. It was difficult to kind of make the leap and say, I'm going to the Midwest US on this date. And once I made that leap, it was a little bit of sink or swim. I've got to get going. And then it makes it easier for you also. So
Mhm.
I had a professor when I was in music therapy who said it's therapy for you too. So making it easier for the folks who are buying the show makes it easier for you too,
Yeah.
because I'm able to go in and say, oh, I'm going to be in Chicago on November 13th. And I know that. And then that really clarifies things for me and I'm able to move forward. So that makes it a lot less scary. There's a lot of the artistic anxiousness that comes with the field
Yeah.
of I've collected 150 rejection letters for this tour, so that always gets a little weird. And you always, every once in a while, you get the really gross, hey, not only do we not have a budget, but you don't deserve one, and that stinks.
those are
You have
those are particularly tough where you're like, thank you, didn't need that, but thanks anyway for sharing your thoughts.
yeah,
Like,
and that's why we keep ice cream in the house.
yes. So when you were thinking about building this tour or building future tours, I think that one of the places where people get stuck is thinking, or it feels too overwhelming to think about all of these different places. Do you have some thoughts about kind of uh, getting something that you can like hang your hat on to kind of start building out the tour? I think that's where it feels like it's an all or nothing thing. And where are some ways, or how are some ways that we can like break that down so it feels less like a giant mountain and a little bit like, oh, just a little step.
everyone's got their thing that they know they're going to be able to do well. And right now, my really comfortable spot is the liberal arts university French horn professor, who is maybe teaching a lot of performance majors and composers and music education majors and therapy majors and business majors. They have a wide gambit of what they have available to them. They have a community that's focused on combining arts and doing different things. And that is where I start, because that's where I know I'm going to find some early success and be able, when I'm looking 6, 7, 8, 10 months ahead, that's where I'm going to find this early, okay, this is what I got. You always send out the reach emails to whoever. The Mozart Chamber Music Society is probably not going to hire me to play French horn and make sounds with my computer, but maybe uh, a larger arts organization that maybe you don't feel quite grown into yet, or a really long shot like high school that you're not really sure about, or any venue or theater. Those are kind of what I save for the outsides. You go find your main target first, and then I try to do it like kind of like a game of Risk. I have I
Yeah.
like I have Egypt, and then I'm trying to expand out. So I've got
Yes.
a I've
Such a
got a
good way of putting
stronghold
it.
here, and slowly go out. And then again, it's helpful because if I have a partnership with a horn professor, I just worked at St. Olaf, and that's what I'm thinking about, this wonderful example, then I know, hey, I'm spending 4 days here. I could go research that town, everything within an hour circle,
Yeah.
and spend some time there. And that I probably could have done that better this time around, because there was a someone came to one of my shows and said, "Man, we're right up the road. We totally would have had you." And I was
Like, I just didn't know.
yes, yes, and they don't. I didn't know, and they didn't know, and that's
Mhm.
the big part of my job. You have to write the product and then put it in front of people who make decisions about it. That's the big thing that I'm spending all my time doing.
Yeah. Well, and also, if you don't mind me saying, you're very good at researching things. And so I think that there's something to also take a little bit of heart in for everybody that might be listening or watching this at a certain point, which is you can be really good at researching and marketing and all of this stuff, and still people may not know. And so it's okay, like that happens, but that just kind of keeps you motivated to say, like, maybe there's somebody else, or can you connect with me with somebody? There's just like there's always going to be that thing. There's always going to be a person, So I appreciate that you said that, because I think sometimes it feels that's another way that we kind of get overwhelmed with
Yeah.
these types of things. But okay, Brian, you can tell us as little or as much of this as you want to, but how do you not go broke while you're on tour?
How do I not go broke while I'm on tour? So I keep, it's two things. It's income and costs, right?
Yeah.
Genius coming out of Brian Cam right now.
No,
There,
but like
so
really, really it is. It's like
so a lot of times I think people focus on the cost cutting
hmm
really, really hard because they have this idea that if the tour is cheap, they will be able to do it becomes sustainable. However, cost cutting, it's kind of like an 80%, 20% rule. You can cost cut quite hard, but once you're at Starbucks trying to decide if you're getting almond milk or regular milk, that's where it may be more productive to just book another show.
yeah.
So the first thing that I do is try to book the shows I can at the drop dead rates I got. And I've set the rates based on what it is that I think that if I made this much per day, if I made $300, $400 per day, I can book a $150 hotel room, spend $50 of food, and spend $100 on the car and be at zero
Yeah.
and survive to live again, knowing that that's the absolute bottom and that I might find some big tickets later. So that's all about the cost cutting. Once I set the budget, that's pretty much it. I spent $90 on groceries for 3 days, which included quite a bit of Michigan beer for these 3 days.
Yeah.
And that's a huge cost cut. If I had budgeted $50 for eating, which includes restaurants, that's cost saved. If anyone's generous enough to put me up, which I've been extremely lucky that I've had really wonderful customers putting me up and friends strategically placed in Chicago and Iowa and the Twin Cities. That is a huge saving. And then that lets you kind of spend more elsewhere. So when I'm in Boston, I'm going to be spending a little more. So that's the cost saving. I don't really go hard in terms of am I super penny pitching, like washing my clothes in the shower versus going to a laundromat or something. So I don't really do that. And of course there's a ton of privilege there. I was the principal horn player for the United States Pacific Fleet Band, saved a lot of money because I knew I was going to be doing this. That being said, I haven't dipped into it, so I've been successful in that way so far. Then there's the income side of it, and that is about trying to make sure that your customers know what it is they can hire you for. So some folks are hiring me for the show and some coaching and a master class and a so and so, and we did a world premiere, and we go on and on and on. And other schools are saying, hey, or other venues are saying, hey, let's just do a half show and
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah.
So then it's about adding as much as you feel comfortable doing. And once you're there, you're there. But I got lucky quite a bit. So my car rental for 88 days was $1,700, which is
88
just,
days. That's so long.
that was a magic. So budget car rental, thank you for sponsoring
Yeah.
Brian Cam on tour.
Yes.
That was a major windfall for me because I had expected, I was thinking about buying a car.
Yeah, I can
But
understand.
so
Like,
that worked out exceptionally well. I've been really lucky with housing and stuff. So all that together is how I've not gone broke on
I
tour.
love that. Well, can I pick up on something
Yeah,
in there too, which
yeah,
is I hear you talking about pitching things and then also making sure that like if you're doing add-ons that would contribute to like a higher like price point for the thing
Mhm.
rather than what I might hear sometimes, which is like people offering a ton of things but at their like lowest, their like basement price. Can you just talk a little bit about that and maybe I know that it's like up here we always go like of course I'm going to charge more for that because I'm doing more things, but then suddenly we're in the conversation and we're like I'll come do this for $50 and a stick of gum. You're right. Like
Yeah. So I might disappoint you and your audience. The so sorry for that. The
I
way
will not be disappointed.
the way that I've looked at it is I'm relatively early career, at least in this. So I don't I've not enjoyed calling myself early career because I'm really not. I'm
Yeah,
really just kind of lateral career, and now
yeah,
I'm early in that side. Um, but I have not behaved the most responsibly in that way. I book what it is I'm doing
yeah.
and we set that up. And then what has been the case is days, not weeks before, I send that note and say I'm trying to make my teaching offerings more robust. I'm trying to collect more social capital. I'm trying to do these things if and I want to provide as much value for you as possible. And I have this time slot if you'd like to put something in. And this is what I've been telling students on tour. A lot of folks ask me about working for free. I don't think you should work for free, but I think you should split yourself in half and hire yourself.
Yeah.
So Brian KM's a horrible boss, but he's a great employee. So I've hired myself and said, hey, go teach this masterclass and get a bunch of pictures and get a bunch of people saying, hey, he's great. And yeah, you won't get paid, but whatever. And we'll figure that out. So it's kind of on the side. If 3 months out, we booked a show and then we're trying to set up a giant residency with a bunch of teaching, I think that's where what you're saying comes into real play, and you gotta play a little defense on that side. The where I'm not playing defense is the the doctorate student who meets me after the
Yeah.
concert and says, this is incredible, will you listen to my piece tomorrow? And
Yeah.
then you come in and yes, work that through the professor, work that through the venue and provide a ton of value to your customers, because I'm hoping that comes back. It's one of those
Oh, absolutely.
some singer lady I know says the rising tide lifts all boats. So uh
Sounds like a smart person.
yeah, I don't know if you've met her.
Well, but Brian, I do want to, I mean, nobody like who's a stranger to like, or who isn't a stranger to Fri-YAY or the podcast or whatever is unaware that I love to say things like, it's an exchange of value, right? And so something, what I wanted to point out and what you said was like, oh yeah, no, it's really valuable to you to have a bunch of pictures and to get some more of those like testimonial type things, have that experience. That can be super valuable to you. But if it's not super valuable to you, don't like that's not the right exchange. That's not positive anymore. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, we're probably not, I'm probably not sitting in on the weekly Sousa March festival that is coming up impromptu. That's probably not something I'm going to go to at this stage.
Oh, okay. So you've been doing this one. So what are your thoughts for like the next tour, right? It's like this has been a huge learning experience because you've had to
Yeah.
do all the parts. I'm sure, I mean, we don't always want to have to do every single part ourselves. Like that can be a lot of wear and tear. But thanks, Lizzie. But while you're thinking about it and while you're kind of in the experience right now, what are some decisions that you're making for the next go round?
I'm about to blow your mind. So the next, you ever get set up like that? You're in a Q&A and it's like, oh, here we go. I'm about to just knock this out of the park. So the next tour is being planned already. It's in California in 2023 in September. We've already gotten the time off work and we're looking at plane tickets already. We're probably going to start in San Jose and go north.
Nice.
Where the big lessons I've learned is I actually really like hotels.
Yeah.
I did not know that I liked hotels as much as I do, but they're so grounding because they're all the freaking same. And you walk in and it's like, oh, look, you walk in and the bed's either on the right side or the left hand side. and there's this furniture and a TV, and it's all the same. It's really grounding and really nice. I learned that I want to stay in the same place for 3 nights. My
Mm.
sweet spot has been 2 right now, and I'd really like, my sweet spot has been 2 and like 5,
Yeah.
and I'd like to bring that into 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Uh, to do that. I don't think I can go this long. Again, this is, like I said, an 88-day tour, and it's broken up by some holidays and stuff, but
Yeah.
I don't think I want to be away from home that long again. I miss my spouse. And the focus is, this tour was booked quite late. I was looking at, I started really being serious about booking in April, May for this October, November, December tour. And now I'm booking now for September of 2023.
Hmm.
So that's the big, that later range always helps
Yeah.
in developing a skeleton and things like that. And I've gone straight to that level of detail that we were talking about earlier, just straight. I'm going to be there on the 3rd week of September. What
Yeah.
can we do together? I really like to do 3 days, because it's way easier to say yes than to order, like write your own custom order. It's very
Yeah.
difficult to do that. And then the folks who know exactly what they want, they'll write back and say, well, we'd really like you to do this, or we'd really
Hmm.
like you to not do this. And then you go, oh, okay. And then you're writing your own, then you're in that dialogue anyway.
Yeah.
So it's the that strategy has at least been effective. But the lessons learned: tour a little shorter, fix the amount of time I'm in one place. Hotels are great, hot tubs are better, and do all that.
All right, Brian, last question before
Yep.
we wrap up our Fri-YAY time together is a little bit about marketing, because I know that so many of us, when we're on tour, these are maybe new geographic locations to us, and we may not have built a fan base there. We don't have the same thing where it's like, oh, we can get our single played on the radio station there like 7,000 times before we show up. But can you talk a little bit about if you've done anything to kind of like market yourself when you've been to a new place?
That's a complicated question, and a hell of a last question. The the thing, I keep going back to customer service.
Hmm.
So I'm playing in Boston in support of a concert that the Boston New Music Initiative is putting on, and that marketing will start tomorrow. And I've tried to be very forward and say, what can I do to help out? You
Hmm.
know your audience, you know your base. How do I participate in what you're doing? So go back to customer service, and the being presented really helps in that
Hmm.
way,
Hmm.
because they're trying to not necessarily, especially at the university level, they're not necessarily trying to make back in ticket prices. They're trying to provide value for their audience,
Yep.
which then comes back to them in other ways. It's part of a grand project. Brief aside, when I think about shows, there are some shows that I've done a number of ticket split shows. There are some shows that made nothing,
Hmm.
and there are some shows that did far better than expected. The way I've gone through thinking about funding is, you look at the tour as a whole, not as a sum of a
Hmm.
number of shows. And I think that those venues look at it the same way. They look, some shows don't do so well, but it all pools together to be one major season, or
Yeah.
one decade or whatever. So in terms of the marketing, you just got to be there. I've not found success very much on regional social media-ing. That's
Hmm.
a difficult thing, but the concept of showing up, trying to put yourself in front of decision makers, and then that more institutional media push, the radio and the print and the podcast, that's something you pitch and you try to help out by providing shared value. But there's a more nuanced way of doing it than, I'm going to put a poster on every single square inch that I can find in
Right.
this
Right.
in this region. So
Exactly. Well, I really appreciate it, because I think the kind of touring that you're doing right now is is great in the first place, and also is just very similar to what we all have a lot of questions about. And so many of us don't always get that information from other sources, it's not always easy to find. And so really appreciate you just being really honest and open about what you're doing. So that's very
And
cool.
and I am not the authority, so there's a lot of ways to go on a tour. I'm sure some folks try. I've no one's ever offered to fly me anywhere, and I know that's amazing. I used to work for a performing arts center. I know we were flying folks in, so there's another angle that you can take and say, we're going to do it that way. So there's a lot of different ways to do it.
Right. Well, and this is such a good perspective of like exactly where you are right now. And then maybe we'll come back. We'll do more Fri-YAYs in the future as like you do more and more tours and you can give us all the updates and like, you're like, this is what's happening now. And now this is happening.
So last year, let's talk about what an idiot I
No.
was.
You're like, it's really great to be at this spot now. Like,
Yes. Man, that getting snowed in Michigan really stunk.
listen, but those always make the best stories. So if nothing else, if you have very wild and crazy tour experiences, you are way more fun at dinner parties. So like,
And it's all just material to bring into the live show when you're given program notes.
exactly. So Brian, thank you so much. Where can people find you if you're going to be coming into their town or something like that? How are they going to get a hold of you or find out where to see you?
I'm most active on Instagram at I'm Brian KM. I am Brian KM is a super cool bodybuilder dude. So totally go follow him. I need to write to him and get some kind of collaboration.
That would be amazing. I would love this.
I'm Brian KM. I am Brian KM. I'm also that same thing on YouTube, and my website is briankm.com. And I am going to be in Boston on December 2nd at the record company as part of the Boston New Music Initiative, and that's going to be absolutely wild. The show's been I've gotten some wonderful feedback, including it was the most unique thing I've ever seen, which
Wow.
I think was really sweet to hear.
Yeah. Awesome. Brian, thank you. And good luck on tour. Like, as we say, toy, toy, toy. So all of that good stuff. And I mean, I can't wait until we get to talk again, just the two of us. So more soon, okay?
Thank you so much.
All right.
Bye-bye.